So, James, you've written about Arsenal's situation with the centre forward. Now, we know that Gabriel Jesus is likely to miss the rest of the season with a knee injury. It's a constant theme, isn't it? Arsenal need a centre forward, they never buy one. So, where are we at now? Because it seems to be every window, Arsenal will need a striker and they don't bring one in.
Yeah, I mean, I think the current situation is quite. There's a warning from history for them, really. In that 3 years ago, obviously the club was in a very different state, but they ripped up Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang's contract. He went to Barcelona, and they had the final sort of week of the window, knowing that that was pretty likely to happen, and they decided not to bring in another striker, and they basically left themselves with Lacazette and Eddie Nketiah as their two main options, and they ended up missing out on the Champions League. And they fell short really in front of goal. They scored, I think it was 61 goals in the league that season. And you were looking at Liverpool and City were in the high 90s. So it was a huge problem for them. And really, they're in danger of letting history repeat itself, because there's no doubt that they need another striker this month. It really goes back to what they chose to do in the summer, which is keep their powder dry. And a lot of that was related to Benjamin Sesko's decision to sign a new contract at Red Bull Leipzig. My information at the time was that he was their first choice option. And Arsenal have been very pragmatic in the window. They've been very disciplined in the last sort of 3 or 4 windows in terms of they if they don't get their preferred option, they wait. They've pivoted a couple of times when they couldn't get Mudryk. They went for Trossard. They've done deals when they've felt they've had to move. But with this one in the summer, because I think they knew any striker of pedigree or potential is going to cost a lot of money, and they didn't want to gamble. And they thought, look, this is a team that scored 91 goals in the Premier League. That was an all-time club high in Premier League history for Arsenal. They felt the numbers suggested that they didn't, that it wasn't as if they were goal shy and they were missing chances that cost them the league. But of course, that relied on everybody being fit, and players like Kai Havertz and Saka and Martin Odegaard all hitting their numbers that they have in the last couple of years. And obviously injuries have hit them in a way that they didn't anticipate, and hasn't happened to them in the last 2 years. And it's really kind of multiplied the problem. And that big decision that they made in the summer after Sesko signed that new deal to essentially wait and see what happens is costing them dearly. Now, we're in a position in January where they feel, the information is that they feel Sesko is available in the summer. They think that there is some sort of agreement, whether that's informal or formal, between Leipzig and the player, that he will be allowed to go for a price between 70 and 75 million euros. It could be outside of that band, but that's kind of the rumor about him at the moment. Now, can they afford to wait? You'd have to say, looking at the team's form and the league table, the answer to that is probably no. And the big question becomes then, well, if you think you can get him in the summer, what can you do about getting him in January? And the link to that, of course, is that they don't currently have a sporting director. Edu's on gardening leave. They haven't appointed a successor. Jason Ato, who was working underneath Edu, has stepped up and sort of filled in on an interim basis. Really nice guy. Met him for the first time 2 or 3 weeks ago. Came across really well, really personable. But does he have the experience to go and do a deal in a difficult window of this size? No, he doesn't. It's a big ask for Arsenal in the final 2 weeks of this transfer window.
Are you surprised that they, I guess, prioritised Martin Zubimendi in the summer, a midfielder, which very good midfielder, and obviously Arsenal are going to possibly lose Jorginho and Partey in the summer due to contracts, but still, that doesn't seem to be right now the priority. Like you said, the striker is the priority, so they seem to be focusing on a midfielder when really they need a striker.
Well, this comes back to, so every November there's an executive team that flies over from London to LA to meet with the Cronkies, and they plan out their windows in advance. And they went out in November, not really to plan January. Obviously, they talked about it, but they were planning next summer. And I think in that meeting, or that series of meetings in November, that was when the decision was made to go for Zubimendi. And obviously, they haven't completed that deal, but all signs now point to them getting that one over the line. And it is a significant coup for them, not least because Liverpool, obviously, he turned down Liverpool last summer. Man City have been linked with him quite heavily in terms of, obviously, with the Rodri injury. And, they've got him a good, well, what will be a good price. And he's a good profile. He's a good player. And he solves an issue for them in the short term, in the fact of Jorginho and Partey, two midfielders they currently have, are coming out at the end of their contracts at the end of the season. There's a bit of uncertainty about whether one or both of them will leave. They've kind of solved that problem now and put themselves in a very strong position. If Zubimendi gets over the line, that will strengthen that part of the team. And it's all part of this longer term planning and strategizing. What I don't think they're I think what they're struggling with is reacting to the situation that they're in because they didn't expect to be here. They felt as though they would be challenging for the league. And if City fell away as they have done this season, they would be in pole position to go and attack it and go and win the league. And the fact of the matter is that they've fallen short and in a way that they didn't anticipate. And that's the challenge for them now. Do they have the ambition? Do they have the confidence? Do they have the aggression to go and seize this opportunity? I know everyone's talking about Liverpool as if it's almost done, but it's 6 points in the game in hand. It is a big gap, but I do think that Arsenal are capable of going on a run if they were to strengthen this window. The City are not Liverpool are not City. They're not going to win the last 16 consecutive matches. They don't have, I mean, they could do, but they don't have the pedigree and the proven history of going on to do it. So I think they need to look at the title race in a slightly different way and think, well, if they are going to drop points, we've got to do everything we can now in this final fortnight to go for it. And that really is the mood music around the Emirates at the moment. You talk to any fans around there, they really think they want them to gamble on this opportunity now, seize the moment. I understand the planning, but go and seize the moment and try and do everything you can to win the title.
That's definitely getting clipped by Liverpool fans when they win every single game between now and the end of the season and win the title, by the way.
Yeah, and
Just
fair enough. But they're not, are they? I mean, they're not. You can't. If you're Arsenal and you're looking at Liverpool, you cannot look at them in the same way that you would look at Man City. And you'd look at them and you'd think, okay, 6 points ahead, game in hand, well, it's over, isn't it? I mean, we know what they do. We know they're going to probably drop 4 points between now and the end of the season. Liverpool could do that, but there's no guarantee that they will. They've never done it before, this group of players under this manager. So there has to be an uncertainty there, which creates an opportunity that they could seize.
I mean, you sit and speak to Mikel in his press conferences most weeks. Where does he stand on the debate around whether he needs a striker or not? Because I know I've seen lots of Arsenal fans sort of arguing that his style of football doesn't create chances for a central striker. So if that's the case, why do you need one? But is he softening a little bit with the way that he's talking about possibly needing a striker?
Yeah, absolutely he is. But part of the reason of that, of course, is injuries. Saka's out until March. Nwaneri, who looked really promising, a teenager who come through the academy, he's now out for an extended period. Gabriel Jesus, as Mark said, is likely to be out for the rest of the season. But there's hardly an injury crisis in those attacking positions. It's not as if they've lost 4 or 5, and you're thinking, well, this is kind of unlucky. They made a judgment call in the summer that they did not need another forward, or that the right forward was not available. And I think this is also another interesting point to make, is that they've not. I don't think they've been clear in whether they want a number 9 or whether they want a wide forward who can play across all the attacking positions. A Matheus Cunha, for example, at Wolves, somebody who could play right and left and through the middle if you wanted him to. And he is someone that they have looked at in the past. But again, he looks like he's signing a new contract to stay at Wolves for the time being. So there has been this debate about, do they want a number 9? Do they, you're right, they don't necessarily need a finisher. And Arteta's been very skeptical about that when he will point to, well, look at all the goals we scored last season. Kai Havertz has done a fantastic job there. And he flourished in that position. And that wasn't really part of their planning when they signed him. I always remember Arteta talking about a game away at Brighton when Havertz was playing through the middle and he scored again and he was on this fantastic run, and he sort of said, well, sometimes, you have these ideas about how you want your team to play, and then there's a flow that's created and you just have to go with it. And he was talking about Havertz playing through the middle, and he's placed an awful lot of faith in Havertz being able to continue to do that. And I think he's a very, very good player, and I think some of the stick he gets is really unfair. But is he a number 9 that's going to win you the title? Possibly not. There's certainly enough doubt to suggest that you need someone else to give him competition. And I think Arteta finally is starting to realise that. He used to kind of play down. I mean, even if you went back to the beginning of the month, he would sort of say, yeah, we're actively open to signing someone and we'll look and we'll, that kind of generic, yeah, we're around, but we're not kind of doing too much, has shifted to, we're short, we need somebody, look at our bench, look at Liverpool's bench. There's clearly a disparity.
So just to finish then, if you were a betting man, there's a couple of weeks left of the window. Do you think it's possible that Arsenal will find someone that's suitable and be able to get a deal over the line before the deadline?
Yeah, I mean, the $1 million question. I think that there will be serious questions to answer if they don't get anybody in. And I don't think that they're at a stage where they need a body, but I think they need to be more flexible than they wanted to be in this window. And by that I mean, if they can't get Sesko, if they make a concerted effort for him and they get him, great. They've got their target, they've got him 6 months earlier. They might end up paying a little bit more. He's obviously coming in mid-season, hard for him to adapt, but at least they've got him in the building and they've kind of sated that desire to sign someone. But if they can't do that deal, I think they do have to look at more short-term options and they do have to think about the opportunity that's presenting itself here, because it's not every year that City fall away like this and there's an opportunity to go and win the league and challenge Liverpool. They have to really seize the moment. And I think the sentiment is that they want to do it, and I think they will do something, but it could be anything from a big money signing to a last minute loan.